Hi everyone, my name is Beth and I was selected to be the foster home for Midlife, one of the Standardbreds that was just rescued from Pennsylvania. This is him. So we're going with the barn name of Ben because I think that he is just a soft teddy bear of a boy, and that that name just rings with me. Anyway, they've had he and his friend over there, you can see across the barn. That is Evil One, which is a terrible name. His foster mom boards here with me at my farm, and he is now going by Theo. So he's over there. Oh, he's saying hello. Anyway, these boys had a very long trip. They were supposed to arrive yesterday evening around 8 p.m. They didn't, and we waited until midnight and then found out that they actually were laying over somewhere. So they came this morning and arrived at just after 9:30 this morning, after a layover last night. So they've had a rough 24 hours or so. Both of them are eating quite well, and they both had vet checkups today. Each one has a couple of little issues, but nothing major. We'll deal with those. And Mr. Ben here had his feet done by my awesome, amazing farrier today, because he had road shoes on all 4 feet from being a buggy horse. They had been on there for many, many months. His feet had overgrown them, and they were contracting his heels. He was very sore, and he was very low, and his tendons were not feeling great. His toes were long, and he had 4 different shoes on. So they were not only different sizes or widths, but they had different cork or borium patterns on them. So he was very off balance. And actually my farrier didn't know how he was really standing, actually, because he would have had to compensate so much. So let alone pulling a buggy, which he would have been doing. Anyway, now he is barefoot, he is freshly trimmed up, and he's a very happy boy. So he is wearing a blankie this evening. He is quite thin still, lots of weight to put on, but also it's just chilly. We're in the corner stall with the window here, and it is -20 outside this evening with the wind chill. So he's wearing a nice blankie, and he's been a perfect boy to look after so far today. We'll see if he wants to say hello, but so far he likes to eat. So here he is doing his favorite thing so far. So keep in touch. I'm gonna upload a lot of pictures as well. It's easier to get pictures because I don't have a cameraman, so for videos it's a little bit tricky, as it's just myself, and then my arms are only so long. But keep watching, and I'll give you as many tidbits of the story as I can, for both Theo across the barn there, and his mom, his foster mom Ashley, will share with some info there as well, and for Mr. Ben here, aka Midlife, who is now safe and sound and warm and cozy and enjoying some well-deserved food. So anyway, keep an eye out for everything. I thank you to all of you who supported these boys getting here and arriving safely. Quite the journey, a lot of commotion and miscommunication and such, but they made it here, and they made it safely. That's what's important. And yeah, stay with us on the journey. Thank you so much. Bye. Well, this is how our day went here. We have a possible tooth root abscess. We have 1 snotty nostril here on his left, and this is Mr. Ben, Midlife. And we've got some smelly breath, and we're holding our head to the side a little bit. Our teeth are very sharp. We knew that after his vet visit the other day. We were hoping to get him through a month or so before doing his teeth, just to let him put some weight on, as he's still eating great. But now we are doing a round of antibiotics twice a day, which is really fun because he's not a fan. And then after the antibiotics, we'll do a dentistry as soon as possible, and we might have to extract a tooth or 2. So we'll see how things look in there. But for today, we had our second vet visit in 5 days. And yeah, we're a good boy, but we're not a fan of the antibiotics, and we're also feeling much better. So we're a little bit interesting sometimes to deal with. We have opinions now. So we're feeling better, but we have opinions about lots of things, and I like it. I like the personality, but yeah, our opinions don't necessarily always mesh with my own. So anyway, now I'm gonna let him eat his grain, but thought that we'd share that story of our day with you. Hi again. All right, figured we'd do a little video. Sorry, barn cat opening the feed room door. Figured we'd do a little bit of a video about feeding a refeed horse, so one that has been underfed or neglected. And we have to kind of start from scratch as far as feeding goes. So for Mr. Midlife, who's called Ben here, so he has been eating hay, and he is up to free choice hay now at this point. I did start him slowly over the first day or so, but he showed me pretty quickly that he can tolerate hay just fine, no problem. His bowels work great, so that's good. What goes in comes out, and that's the important thing for sure. He drinks very well, so no problems that way. And even though he's feeling a little bit under the weather right now with a possible tooth root abscess or a sinusitis, he's still eating like a champ. So as far as grain goes, today we're on day 5. So day 1 he did not receive any grain because they were shipped that day, and it was a stressful enough day. Didn't want to add to the stress. The next day we started with quite literally a couple of handfuls of just a vitamin mineral supplement, and then we've been working up since then. So we're on day 5 now, and I can't really show you what's in the bucket, but we're still not a whole lot of grain there. This is his morning breakfast that I'm making up. He's finished his dinner tonight, and then I make up breakfast grain for the morning and just stack them here in the feed room. So then in the morning all I have to do is come in and soak them. I don't feed any dry grain here because I think we need to get the extra water into the horses. It's better for them. And then also there's less chance of choke, which if you've ever seen a horse with a choke that needs veterinary intervention especially, it's terrifying. You don't want to see it. You don't want to have to deal with it. So I do all that I can to avoid that. So all of my horses here get about a tablespoon of salt, and this is just feed grade salt. When I can't get to the feed mill and I run out, I literally go to the grocery store and buy a thing of sea salt or even table salt, and that's just fine. So about a tablespoon in their breakfast grain there. And then I'm trying not to show name brands because I'm not endorsing any of these products. I use a whole bunch of different name brands here, and I use what works. So, and I've got 15 horses here, including all my boarders. So yeah, we use what works and we feed what we like. So we've got some MSM here, which is great for joints and cartilage, and also helps with hooves. So we've got a little scoop of that there. Mr. Ben right now is also on spirulina, which is algae, which you would think they wouldn't like to eat, but actually they seem to really like it. And this just has immune boosting properties, so he's on that probably just for the first little while that he's here with me, and then he won't need to be on that one long term as long as his immune system kind of seems to level out after his current issues, that is. And then, as with any horse that was underfed or is being, as part of a refeeding program, I always assume that they have gastric ulcers of some severity, at least. So I normally start with an ulcer supplement. If that's not cutting it, then I will actually have them scoped and put them on an ulcer medication from the vet. But I try and do less invasive things in the very beginning when we're first getting to know each other, and scoping is pretty invasive. So we're on just an ulcer supplement for right now. It will be kind of a preventive, as well as will treat any kind of mild ulceration that's in there in his gut. So he gets a scoop of that. And that one smells kind of like peppermint. I really like it. And then Mr. Ben is sharing, and actually this is the only supplement that he shares with my other horse currently, is just a hoof supplement, and that's just to help out with the integrity of his hooves. If you've seen the photos, you saw that Ben came with really, really long toes and road shoes that had been on there for probably close to a year. They've been on there for a long time. My farrier has done great work at trimming his feet up and everything, but the integrity of his hoof walls obviously is compromised from not having any care for so long. So anything that I can do to help his feet grow out healthy from the inside out, and then I'll do for him. So that's Ben's breakfast made up. Like I said, I do come in the morning and soak the grain. It gets about 10-15 minutes to soak before I go into the barn and feed it to the horses. And I use warm water, and I make sure that everyone is essentially eating a slurry or a mash. Makes a giant mess in my stalls. They paint the walls and everything else, but it's happy horses, and it gets extra water into them, which is important. And that's one reason for the salt as well. You know, that also will help get the extra water in because it helps make them drink. And if they were sweating at all, which these past couple of days they have been, it's really warm for this time of year. It'll replenish a little bit of the salt that they've lost through sweat. And also salt has been shown to increase or to pull some water into the gastrointestinal tract as the foodstuffs are passing through. So less chance of a colic because actually will pull more water in or keep more water in the gut. So the stool is soft rather than being rock hard, firm stool on the way through. So, and salt is cheap. So why not feed everyone a tablespoon of salt a day, right? Anyway, thank you so much for being part of my video here. Hopefully I can continue to do these videos as the refeeding program kind of continues. I do apologize, I talk with my hands, I'm French, and I look tired because it's been a very long day. It's almost midnight, and I'm just making up breakfast grain here so that I can get ready and go in and go to bed. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
Hi, I want to start Theo's vlog off on a slightly different note. He is a very psychological case, more than I think we originally gave him credit for. But I want to explain what a trauma brain looks like and how it applies to him. I myself, I am an adoptive parent. I've been through many, many, many hours of trauma training and the trauma that affects the brain, which I am actually really thankful for because it is giving me a different perspective on him as a horse. A trauma brain, whether it's a human or an animal, is very, very similar. So I'm thankful that I can kind of put some of my knowledge onto this and onto him. And how I deal with him. And I think it's going to be imperative moving forward with him and helping him heal. He is 22 years old. It's many, many years of history that we don't fully know. But it doesn't mean that the rest of his future has to be the same and he has to continue to live with his life with anxiety and the fear of unknowing what's coming and if somebody's going to treat him with a kind hand. So this is going to be the start. Day one, when he came off the trailer, he was in a stall and he was curious with us on the outside of his stall. I'm a huge, very, very big believer in observation first. Which seems like a very cautious approach, which I think in this case it should be because I don't know him and he doesn't know me. He was curious. He'd put his nose through the bars. The moment I opened the stall door, though, he shut down. He was very shut down, he'd avoid my presence. He was okay with me being in the stall, but he didn't want to look at me, acknowledge me. It was just better if he just ignored me. So, which is quite fascinating. The brain tends to have 5 major responses to a situation: flight, freeze, flight, submission, and avoidance. He is an avoider. Sorry, I can't talk today. When you are actually able to get a hold of him, he is a submissive. Avoiding and submissive is not a fantastic, like, it's one of the better combinations to have, but that's not what the combination I want him to continue on with. And I'll explain that in a minute. But so I just took the first day as an observing day. I let myself be in his stall and see what his reaction to me was, and to watch his body language, to make sure that there wasn't going to be any aggression, or anything to be really concerned about. He is not a nasty boy. He's not looking to hurt you. He's not looking to defend himself in an aggressive way at all. His defense mechanism is avoidance. So that is really encouraging. He does want to allow himself to trust. And he's showing that by when you actually do get a hold of him, and you're able to hold his halter, he does have a moment where his eyes go soft and he gives in and he lets himself enjoy the moment. And then you watch his brain kind of snap back out of it and he wants to be away from you again. So it's a pull. I think he's got like a pull and push thing going on in his brain right now where he wants to, but he's not allowing himself to, which is completely fair. Day one, we also had the vet look at him. His head tilt is a major player in his psychological being. His head tilt is presenting as nerve damage. Based on his reactions, it is very, very safe to assume that it is impact related, and it is impacted by humans. It's trauma for sure, and we don't know how long it's been, but it is definitely part of his trauma, which is something we are going to have to work through. And I don't know how long that's going to take. It could take the rest of his life. I don't really know, and that's okay, but we're going to try to get him in a better mental state with it. He does present with the nerve damage. It's not just the head tilt that is damaged. His one eye and his lip, the nerve looks like it runs down through all of that, and there is a slight paralysis. It doesn't really affect anything in his face, but it is very obvious. He also is very, very hesitant on that side. You can't approach him from the right side, which is safe to assume that's where the trauma happened. He's trying to protect that side of his body. It does affect the way he eats. As far as him bending down, he does have to splay his legs pretty drastically to keep himself balanced, which I really, going forward, want to get chiro and massage therapists in to take a look at the rest of his body to see how it's affected everything, and really get a better sense of what his body looks like from that perspective to kind of help him out and ease some pain or irritation. So day one was quite heavy. There's a lot going on, a little bit more than I was expecting, which is fine, but it's giving me a starting point, so we will try to work with that. Okay, so day two, so that was yesterday. We saw a little bit more horse yesterday. I'm actually doing the videos in the truck because I don't want to be putting any extra stress on him. So as much as we want to do videos with the horses, he's not that case right now. I'll put him in a video actually in a little bit so you can see him. But as far as me talking about him, I need him to be in quiet right now. So I'm just going to talk about this in the truck at the barn. But yesterday I got a really good sense of his willingness, which was super exciting. He gives you very, very small glimmers of hope that he wants to heal, which is really encouraging. And I'm really, really hopeful that he can get to a better place. But after a little bit of trying, I was able to get his halter on. I have not brushed him completely yet, And as much as I want to, that is not a priority at this point. He's a little bit reactive to the brush. A very, very light, soft brush seemed to irritate him. So I don't really want to push that right now. I'd rather get him to a better mental state with me being around him before me forcing myself in his space. He doesn't trust me quite yet, so we're going to work towards that today. And with the halter, we're really going to work towards a better system and a better way to approach it. He is not food motivated. So getting him to willingly come to us is going to be a little bit of a challenge. And so I just need to figure out kind of what works. He's really attracted to grain, so I'm going to see if that works. But he doesn't really understand treats and seem to care about them, so we're going to have to play around with that a little bit. I was able to blanket him yesterday. It's a little bit chilly. It's nicer today, but and he was a little bit freaked out about the blanket being put over his back, but he took it like a champ. He is submissive and he complies. The thing that I don't like about the complying is that a workhorse is kind of forced to comply. They are trained to comply. If they don't comply, then bad things happen. So that's kind of what he's learned, where I would rather him be calm, confident, and calm willing, which is a much better state for his brain versus submissive and complying. It'll show a much better state of mind when he's in a willing state and a willing state to come to me and allow me to do things versus stand still and let things happen to him or bad things happen, which I think is very much where his brain is right now. You put the halter on, bad things happen. You work, things hurt. There's possibly abuse, the unknown. And that's where his brain sits in his trauma, is that he doesn't know what's going to happen when you put that halter on. So he avoids you. He doesn't want the halter on. He doesn't want you to approach him. And that's going to be a big, big step in his recovery, is getting him to willingly approach you while you are in his space. He will willingly approach the fence if you're on the other side of it, but the moment you enter his space, he's avoiding. So getting his brain to unlock and then reprogram is going to be the challenge. And that could take a long time. And I don't think people really fully understand how much a psychological scarring affects their whole being. Physical scars, physical abuse, and physical evidence of abuse heals. The psychological healing is a much, much longer process. And you can't guarantee how, and you can't rush it. You can't say, oh, it's going to take a week. It could take months. So you need to have a lot of patience and a lot of compassion for the situation. You can't force him to do something he doesn't want to do, and he needs to know that he has the choice. So letting him be a horse, but learning that he can trust and be willing is going to be very, very, very important for him. So yesterday we had him in a small field with Midlife, Ben, and they are best of friends. But when it came time for Beth to catch him to bring him in for dinner, he put up quite the fuss. He didn't want to come in. He didn't want to be haltered. Once he was haltered, he complied. But we need to get him to a point for his own safety, too, that we can halter him without issue. And that's going to be a little bit of a task. So that is my goal today, is to kind of get him into a better state. So we will try to work on that. So that is kind of where we're sitting at the moment. I will do one more video of my plan for him going forward and my starting point. But I wanted to give you a little bit of an update of what came off the trailer and kind of what we're dealing with on this end. Okay, last one. A lot of me sitting in a truck talking, but that's kind of the stage we're at, which is okay. So my plan for him going forward right now, I'm really confident in my plan, and I'm really confident in kind of what things look like going forward. Originally, I was going to put him on outdoor board. But I'm actually rethinking that plan. I'm going to keep him in on indoor board. I think structure and routine is going to be essential for his recovery. He has had so much change in his life and so much unpredictable things happen to him that he needs to know that things are going to be the same regardless of what happens. So I think getting him into a solid routine of you go out, you come in, you have your dinner, you have your breakfast, you go back out, and doing that every day with him is going to just help that trauma brain heal. And I'm really confident that he will pick up on that routine very quickly. It's just getting him to the point where he can be haltered. So what we are going to do today is I'm going to take his halter out, and he needs to learn that the halter doesn't mean anything's going to happen, which is going to be a task, and I'm ready for it. And it could take a little bit. It could take a few days. I'm not really sure. But I'm going to take the halter out, and I'm going to try to halter him. Once he allows me to halter him, I am going to attempt to give him a reward of some sort. We'll see what he takes. And then take the halter off and walk away. And we're going to do that over and over and over again until he realizes that me putting a halter on is not, it doesn't mean anything. That's all it means, is I'm putting a halter on and I'm not asking anything of you. So we can slowly start to reprogram his expectation of what's coming. And it's such a basic thing to start to do, but I think it's going to give us the building blocks to move forward. Could it take a week or two for me to get a good groom in on this guy? Absolutely. Will I try eventually? But I think going through this process of haltering him and the trust and the bonding is going to overtake everything, and it's going to give us the building blocks to move on. Giving him a good solid base to prove to him that nothing is going to happen to him is going to allow me to push his boundaries later. But if we can't get this solid base, then there's no way we can move on from the stage that we're at currently. People with trauma, especially, they need to know what's coming. They need to understand what's coming to feel safe. And that's no different than horses. I would really like to get him to a calm, confident state. And he needs to learn that the halter means calm, confident. He needs to learn that the barn means calm, quiet, relaxation, food. The barn is a safe haven. The halter is a safe haven. I'm a safe haven. And that's where my stuff is going to start. Once we have a better rapport, then I'm going to call the chiropractor to get her to look at his neck to see what we're dealing with spinal-wise. Because of this head tilt, I want to really understand what's being affected in that neck. And then I've also, I'm going to make a call out to the massage therapist. He has a muscle knot about the size of a baseball on the one side of his neck. And I'd really like to get some of that stuff worked out. So he's more comfortable. And I think as he becomes more comfortable and physically comfortable, he's going to be a much happier, confident horse. And that's the building blocks. So with him, it's going to take time. And I think people really overlook the psychological end of rehabbing these big guys. You can heal physical scars, you can help them gain weight, but when it comes to the psychological healing of anything, whether it's person or animal, this is where the hard work begins, and this is where the hard work kind of has to get put into play. I have really high hopes for him. I think he's going to do very well. We may not be able to heal everything, and that's completely okay, but if we can make the end part of his life happier and with less anxiety and more comfort and he has the ability to be loved and to allow himself to be loved. But we have to give him that chance and give him the tools to be able to move on from his past. So that's where we sit. So I will make sure he's in the rest of the videos, but that is my update for right now. And we will see how it all goes. Okay.
Hi everybody, my name is Kimberly and I am lucky enough to be the foster mom for Not My Man, aka Neo. Some of you might know me. I am also the president of New Start Standardbreds, and Neo's name, his new barn name, came from the fact that Neo means new start. So it was kind of ironic, and it definitely suits him because he's ready for one. So he arrived last week and has been on stall rest because he has some pretty damaged legs that need a little bit of TLC. I am hoping he will come around because this isn't damage we haven't seen before in horses that have done a lot of hard work on the road as a buggy horse. However, I'm holding my breath, doing my best to remain optimistic. So when he arrived, we had the opportunity to remove his auction tags, which was honestly a very satisfying moment. Most of the auction horses I've gotten, by the time they get to me, those tags are long gone. So having the opportunity to take them off was a very, like I said, satisfying experience. So the first couple days, we just kind of got to know him, gave him a good brush down because he was filthy dirty, and I now understand why. As you can see, he loves his scratches. He has very poor skin quality right now. He's essentially flaky and peeling, so it makes it very itchy. Between that and the fact that it's spring and he's losing his winter hair, he's one very itchy boy. Unfortunately, we have to be very careful in scratching his itches because his skin just peels right off right now. So he's on a diet that will hopefully help with his nutrition and getting his skin back to normal quality. He's a very personable boy. When he first came, he was kind of shut down, but as the days went on and he realized that, you know, life's pretty good around here, his personality starts to come out. He's very vocal and he's very open in his facial expressions. My hope is that the stall rest will be short-lived, but when he arrived, he did have a little bit of a snotty nose, and just to play it safe, we kept him away from the other horses, but it also gave us the opportunity to get a good look at those legs and really give those legs great treatment. So we do joke a little bit about Neo being jailbait. What we do know about his past, he only raced 2 times and they were not successful races in his career. However, in his short career as a racehorse, he had 2 grooms, and from what I have heard, both grooms ended up in jail. So 3rd time's the charm. If I ever need bail money, we know why. So when Neo came, he had mud caked to his belly, and it was because of his skin quality. You couldn't brush it off and you couldn't wash it off. We actually ended up having to shave it off very carefully. So he's a little bit bald in some patches right now, but it definitely needed to be done because it was so thick and it was just caked right on. So he definitely feels a lot better now that it's off. I do know it was hurting him quite a bit, just the way it was pulling on the hair and the pain. So he feels much better. Because he did have the snotty nose, we did have to check his temperature. He was not appreciative of it. I can understand why. However, he did not have a fever, so we believe the snotty nose was just the stress of the long travel and everything. So we have been tracking his progress in terms of his gait, how he moves, how he walks, as we do his treatments over the next little while. Just because we want to see where there's progress, where there might be any issues, what's working and what's not in terms of treatments. Neo also had a visit with the farrier. I was worried that somebody had cut his toes off and cut his toes too short. It turns out he just has very small feet. His feet are actually trimmed correctly. They were actually a shade long. So I just wasn't ready for this big lanky horse to have such tiny feet. But he does, and that's okay. He has been an absolute gem to work with in terms of his personality and his understanding. He does get a little nervous the first time you start to do something with him, but when he realizes that you're trying to help him, he just stands there and lets you do whatever you need to do, whether it is scrubbing poultice off his legs, whether it is wrapping him up with boots and treatments and whatnot. He takes it like a champ, and I'm so impressed with his personality so far, and he's gonna make somebody an amazing horse when he's ready to find a home, because he has that will and that ability to want to please and want to connect with somebody, and that's so special, and that's hard to find in some horses, especially ones that have been through, Lord knows what he's gone through, but been through the kind of stuff that he's had to deal with in his short life, because he is only 10 years old, so. So we have been doing two kinds of treatments with Neo. We have been doing poultice, which is a cold treatment, both his hocks and his pasterns. And then we have also been doing a Furazone sweat, which is a hot treatment. So we've kind of been going back and forth, cold treatment to hot treatment, trying to see what might get these legs to let go of some of the scar tissue, the calcification, just whatever's going on in his legs. Neo also got dewormed after a couple days once he had settled in and his tummy was happy. We didn't see any worms in his stall remnants. However, to be on the safe side, we made sure that he was done at the same time as the rest of the herd that he will be going out with. So he's been going on a lot of walks. He likes going out and finding little patches of grass. He's a very cheeky boy. Like I said, his personality is starting to come out. One of his favorite things to do is stick his tongue out at you. He does need quite a bit of weight still. He's all right, but he's less than 1,000 pounds and over 16 hands high. So that's not okay in my book, but we have to be careful to not put too much weight on him because of those legs. I don't want too much weight putting too much pressure on them all at once. He got a little bit of turnout by himself, and as you can see, the only thing he wanted to do was roll. He's so ishy, it's not a surprise, and he also likes to be a mud puppy. So he's become a swamp rat now, that we have to keep cleaning off. He loves the mud, and he loves to scratch his itches. In terms of feeding, because like I said, I want to be careful not to put too much weight on him too quickly. He's been working up to a full grain diet. We've been taking it slow. He does have a couple hooks in his mouth, so we'll need a chance to get his teeth done. So the vet will be booked for that. But he does love his grain, and he loves to tell you about it. He's also on a couple different supplements, some to help with his joints, some to help potentially with the skin issues, as I said, and some just to help to ensure that he doesn't have any stomach issues and potentially end up with any ulcers, just with all of the stress from such a big move coming from the States. I hope that you stay tuned and you enjoy watching Neo's journey.
It's a good face. That's a face only a mother can love. That's a face only a mother can love. Have a good day.
This is Kimberly popping back in. I do not have St. Helens Corvette at my place. However, I do know that his foster mom is currently recovering from a surgery that she had the same week that he arrived. So she sent along some pictures and a couple updates on him, but I thought I'd pop in and explain them a little bit more. So he has been hanging out, going for lots of walks, and working on his weight gain as well. There's quite a few people from this guy's life that remember him, and I do know that there's a couple of them that have asked about getting a chance to come and see him again, which was so thoughtful, and we're so thankful that his foster mom will allow them to come visit him. Even though those people can't take him home, they do remember him, and they really, really want to show their support and just be so grateful that he's home and he's safe. And I do know that his foster mom was telling me that she's going to have a really hard time not adopting this boy herself because he just has such a sweet personality. And he did get his shoes removed and his feet trimmed. They were quite overgrown. And his foster mom was telling me that not only were they overgrown, he had some different size shoes on. He also had nails in his feet from the last time he had his feet done. So nails that were still left over from before. Thank you for watching everybody's journey, and stay tuned for next week.